They say life often tests you when you are least prepared. Some people break under the weight of struggle, but some turn pain into power. This is the story of a man who had nothing, no money, no home, no comfort. But he had one thing, the tiny hand of his son holding on to him with blind faith. And with that, he fought against the darkest nights until he reached the light. This is not just a movie. This is a real story. The story of Chris Gardner. A story that proves one thing. As long as you don't stop walking, your journey will never end.
Chris Gardner was born in 1954 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. From the beginning, his life was anything but easy. His father abandoned him. His mother raised him alone, but she herself was struggling with abuse and endless hardship. Chris grew up in an environment where survival was the only lesson. He often went to bed hungry. Sometimes he didn't even have proper shoes to wear. His childhood was filled with instability, chaos, and pain. And yet, in the middle of all this darkness, he carried a dream. A dream that his life would not end up like his mother's, fighting pain every day. He wanted something better, something bigger.
As an adult, Chris tried to build a life. He believed opportunity could be created if he worked hard enough. But one of his biggest mistakes was investing everything he had into a medical device, a bone density scanner. He thought hospitals would buy it and it would change his fortune. But reality was cruel. Doctors didn't need the machine. They told him, it's a luxury, not a necessity. Days turned into months, and rejection after rejection crushed his dream. The machines piled up, unsold. Debt grew. His marriage fell apart. His wife left. And Chris found himself alone. Completely alone. Except for his little boy. Only 5 years old.
Soon, Chris and his son were thrown out of their apartment. At first, they stayed in cheap motels when he had a little money. But when the money ran out, they turned to shelters. And when shelters were full, they slept wherever they could. The most painful night came when Chris and his son had nowhere to go. They locked themselves inside a train station bathroom. Chris held his boy in his arms, whispering, "It's just a game, son. Just close your eyes." And then he cried silently all night, praying no one would knock on that door. Imagine the pain of a father watching his child sleep on a cold bathroom floor, knowing he has nothing to give. That was Chris Gardner's rock bottom. One day, Chris saw a man step out of a red Ferrari. He asked him, "What do you do?" The man smiled and replied, "I'm a stockbroker." That single moment lit a fire inside Chris. He decided, "I will not let poverty define my son's life. I will fight. I will become a stockbroker." He applied for an internship at a brokerage firm, but it was unpaid. No salary, no security, and only one position out of 20 interns would get a job at the end. Still, Chris took the risk, because when you have nothing left to lose, even the smallest chance becomes everything. Every day was war. By morning, Chris dropped his son at daycare, then rushed to the office. He couldn't afford to waste a single second. While others took the elevator, he ran up the stairs. While others took lunch breaks, he kept dialing phones. He made twice the calls of other interns. He studied harder. He worked faster.
he refused to stop. By evening, he stood in line at homeless shelters, praying there would still be a bed for him and his son. Some nights there wasn't. So he held his boy close, whispering stories, hiding the truth that they were homeless. At night, he studied under dim light while his son slept beside him on a thin mattress. Hunger clawed at his stomach, but the fire in his heart burned stronger. Chris kept telling himself, "I cannot give up, because if I fall, my son falls too." After months of endless struggle, Chris was finally called into the office. He feared another rejection, but instead they told him, "Congratulations, Chris. We'd like to offer you the job." In that moment, the years of humiliation, hunger, and sleepless nights melted into tears. Chris walked out of that office, tears streaming down his face. He clapped silently to himself, not for his own victory, but for the future of his little boy.
Chris Gardner went on to become a successful stockbroker. Later, he became a millionaire entrepreneur, author, and motivational speaker. But his greatest victory was not money. It was proving that poverty, homelessness, and pain do not define your future, unless you let them. Chris taught the world that you don't need a perfect beginning. You don't need luck. You only need relentless faith, discipline, and the courage to never quit. And so, his story became a legacy. The pursuit of happiness does not mean smiling every day. It means carrying your pain and fighting through it until the day comes when you finally earn your happiness.